Emily Carter believed her life was finally falling into place. At 27, she had a stable job as a teacher at Willowbrook Primary, a cozy apartment in London, and a man she thought she could trust with her heart. Daniel Hughes had swept into her life 2 years earlier like a storm, charming, attentive, and full of promises. He wasn't just another boyfriend. He was the man she imagined walking down the aisle with, the man she pictured holding her hand as they raised children together. From the outside, their relationship looked picture-perfect. Emily's friends often told her she was lucky. Daniel was handsome, financially stable, and affectionate in ways that made other women envious. He sent flowers to her workplace just because, cooked her dinner after long days, and always knew how to make her laugh. To Emily, he wasn't just her partner. He was her home. But Emily's dreams reached deeper than romance. She wanted to be a mother more than anything. Growing up in a broken family, she longed to create a life full of love and stability, something she never had as a child. So when she discovered she was pregnant, she felt her heart swell with joy. She had taken the test in the quiet of her bathroom, hands trembling as the second pink line appeared. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered to herself, "I'm going to be a mom." It was the happiest moment of her life. Daniel's reaction, however, was not what she expected. When she told him the news, his face went pale. "Pregnant?" he repeated, almost in disbelief. "Yes," Emily said softly, searching his eyes for excitement. "We're going to have a baby, Daniel." There was silence. For a long moment he didn't smile, didn't touch her belly, didn't say the words she longed to hear. Instead he muttered, "It's just sooner than I thought." Emily's chest tightened. "Do you not want this?" Daniel quickly shook his head, forcing a smile. No, it's just a shock, that's all. I love you, Em. We'll figure this out together." His words soothed her at first, but deep inside, Emily felt a faint sting of doubt. Something in his tone lacked the pure joy she hoped for. But she pushed the feeling away, convincing herself that he just needed time to adjust. The weeks that followed were filled with both excitement and worry. Emily began to picture their future as parents, but she also noticed subtle changes in Daniel. He worked late more often, claiming deadlines at the office. He became distracted during their conversations, sometimes staring at his phone with a furrowed brow. Emily tried to brush it off, but a seed of unease had been planted. And as her belly began to grow, so too did her suspicion that something wasn't quite right. Little did she know, while she was carrying his child, Daniel was hiding a secret, one that would shatter her world. The early weeks of pregnancy were a blur for Emily. Her mornings began with nausea, her afternoons with fatigue, and her nights with restless dreams of the baby she hadn't yet met. Still, she clung to the joy of becoming a mother. She imagined little shoes lined by the door, bedtime stories whispered under a quilt, and the soft weight of a child resting on her chest. But Daniel's distance grew harder to ignore. At first it was subtle, unanswered texts, canceled dinner plans, the excuse of being too tired after work. Then came the late nights, the vague explanations about clients and meetings. Emily tried to convince herself it was just stress from his job. Yet deep down she sensed a shift. His kisses became hurried, his touch less tender, his laughter forced. One evening Emily cooked his favorite meal, roasted lamb with rosemary potatoes. She wanted to celebrate her 3-month scan, where she had seen their baby's tiny heartbeat flicker on the screen. She waited eagerly, the food growing cold as the clock ticked past 8, then 9. At last Daniel walked through the door. His tie was loose, his hair disheveled, and there was a faint trace of perfume Emily didn't recognize. "You're late," she said gently, trying to hide her disappointment. "Sorry, Em. Long meeting," he muttered, brushing past her to grab a drink. She forced a smile, though her throat tightened. "I saved dinner. We could eat together." "I'm not hungry," he interrupted. "I already grabbed something." The word stung more than he knew. Emily sat alone at the table, her appetite gone, staring at the food she had prepared with love. That night, as Daniel slept beside her, Emily placed her hand on her small bump and whispered to her unborn child, "You're enough for me. Even if he's not here, I'll always be here for you." But the cracks were spreading, and soon they would shatter everything. It was a Sunday afternoon when Emily's world tilted. She had gone into the city to shop for baby clothes, delighting in the tiny onesies and soft blankets. Her heart ached with happiness as she imagined cradling her baby. Walking past a cafe, she froze. There, through the glass window, was Daniel. And he wasn't alone. Sitting across from him was Sophie Turner. Emily recognized her instantly. Sophie, Daniel's ex-girlfriend, the woman who had once broken his heart. Emily had seen old photos on social media, heard Daniel speak of her only briefly. He had claimed Sophie was a closed chapter, a mistake of the past. But here she was, leaning forward with that familiar smirk, her hand lightly brushing Daniel's as she laughed. Emily's stomach twisted. She told herself it might be innocent, just two old friends catching up. But then Daniel leaned closer, their faces inches apart, his expression soft in a way that made Emily's blood run cold. She wanted to storm inside to confront them both, but fear pinned her in place. Instead, she turned and walked away, her vision blurred with tears. That night, she asked him carefully, "Were you in the city today?" Daniel glanced up from his phone. "Yeah, meeting with a client." "Why?" Her heart sank. He lied so easily. She nodded, forcing a smile. "Just wondered." Inside, though, she felt something break. The ghost of Sophie Turner had returned, and Emily feared she would not leave so easily. The weeks that followed became unbearable. Daniel grew more secretive, more distracted, and more absent. Emily noticed him stepping outside to take calls, lowering his voice when she entered the room, hiding his phone face down on the table. Her best friend Rachel was the first to say what Emily was too afraid to admit. "You think he's seeing her, don't you?" Rachel asked one evening over tea. Her sharp green eyes studied Emily's pale face. Emily shook her head quickly. "I don't know. I don't want to believe it." Rachel reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Emily, you're carrying his child. If he's betraying you, you need to know." But Emily wasn't ready. She wanted to believe in the man she had fallen in love with, the man who once held her hand and whispered promises of forever. Still, suspicion gnawed at her. She began noticing things she once overlooked: the scent of perfume on his clothes, the text notification he hurriedly swiped away, the way his eyes seemed to drift when she spoke. One night, she confronted him. "Daniel, are you seeing someone else?" she asked, her voice trembling. His eyes widened in mock offense. "What? Of course not. How could you even ask that?" "Because you've changed," she whispered. "You're not here anymore." "Not really." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I'm stressed, Emily. With work, with the baby coming, it's a lot. Don't make it harder by doubting me." Tears stung her eyes, but she nodded. She wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him. But deep down, Emily knew the truth was lurking in the shadows, waiting to destroy her. The truth came crashing down on a rainy Thursday evening. Emily had stayed late at school grading papers when Rachel called her. "Emily," Rachel's voice was urgent, "you need to come to the Regent Hotel. Now." Confused, Emily asked, "Why? What's going on?" There was a pause. Then Rachel whispered, "It's Daniel. He's here with Sophie." Emily's world spun. She barely remembered driving to the hotel, her heart pounding, her hands trembling on the wheel. When she arrived, Rachel was waiting outside, her face grim. "Are you sure?" Emily whispered, her voice cracking. Rachel nodded. "I saw them check in. Together." Her knees nearly gave out. She wanted to scream, to run, to wake up from this nightmare. Instead, she forced herself to walk inside. The receptionist's polite smile only deepened the pain as Emily asked for Daniel's room number. She didn't need to knock. She heard the laughter from inside, the unmistakable sound of Sophie's voice. And then through the gap in the door, she saw them, Daniel and Sophie, wrapped in each other's arms, kissing like lovers who had never let go. Emily's soul shattered. She stumbled back, one hand on her belly, tears streaming down her face. The man she loved, the father of her unborn child, was betraying her in the most unforgivable way. Rachel caught her as she nearly collapsed. "Emily, come on, let's go. You don't need to see this." But Emily's eyes burned with anguish. "He chose her, while I'm carrying his baby." The rain poured outside as Emily walked away, her heart broken beyond repair. And in that moment, she knew her life would never be the same again. The drive back from the hotel was a blur. Emily sat in the passenger seat, silent, her hands resting protectively over her growing belly. Rachel's voice occasionally broke the silence, gentle, supportive, But Emily couldn't process the words. All she could see was the image burned into her mind. Daniel's lips on Sophie's, his hands clutching her the way he used to hold Emily. When Daniel returned home that night, Emily was waiting. She had lit no lamps, the room cloaked in shadows. The door clicked open and Daniel entered, humming softly, until he noticed her sitting stiffly on the sofa. "Em? Why are you sitting in the dark?" His voice carried that smooth practice charm, but tonight it sounded like poison. She rose to her feet, trembling. "Don't lie to me, Daniel. I saw you at the hotel with her." His face drained of color. "Emily." "No." Her voice cracked, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Don't you dare try to deny it. You kissed her. You went into that room with her. While I'm here carrying your child." Daniel ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "It wasn't what it looked like." "Don't insult me," Emily spat. "I saw enough. God, how long has it been going on?" Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. At last, Daniel whispered, "A few weeks." Emily's knees nearly buckled. "Weeks? While I was sick every morning, while I was planning our child's future. You were with her." Daniel's eyes shone with something between guilt and confusion. "She came back into my life, Em. I didn't plan it. Sophie, she understands parts of me you don't." The words cut deeper than any blade. Emily pressed her hand to her chest, as if to hold her heart together. "And what about me, Daniel? About us? About this baby?" He reached for her, but she stepped back. "I made a mistake," he said quickly. "I love you, Emily. I want this family. Please don't throw it all away." Emily's laugh was hollow, bitter. "I'm throwing it away? You already did that the moment you went back to her." For the first time since she had met him, she looked into his eyes and saw not love but weakness. And in that moment, Emily knew she couldn't trust him anymore. The days that followed were torture. Daniel begged for forgiveness, showering Emily with apologies, flowers, promises that it had meant nothing. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Sophie's face smirking in triumph. Emily's body grew heavier with pregnancy, but her heart felt unbearably hollow. Nights became the hardest. She lay awake while Daniel slept beside her, his breathing steady as if nothing had happened. She wanted to scream, to shake him, to demand how he could rest so easily while she drowned in despair. Rachel became her anchor. "You don't owe him forgiveness," Rachel reminded her. "You owe yourself peace. And right now he's stealing that from you." But Emily was torn. Part of her longed to walk away, to raise her baby alone rather than share a life with a man who had betrayed her. Another part clung desperately to the dream she had built. A family, a home, a father for her child. One evening, Emily caught sight of her reflection in the mirror. Her green eyes were ringed with shadows, her face pale, her body rounder with new life. She placed a hand on her belly and whispered, "I have to be strong for you." It was the first time she admitted the truth out loud. Daniel wasn't her strength anymore. He was her weakness. And if she didn't act soon, she feared she would lose herself completely. Sophie Turner was not the type to back away quietly. When she realized Emily knew the truth, she didn't disappear. She pushed harder. Emily found out one afternoon when her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "He doesn't love you. He never did. You're just the mother of his child. I'm the one he wants." The text chilled Emily to the bone. She recognized Sophie's cruelty instantly. Shaking, she showed it to Daniel. His face paled. "Ignore her. She's trying to mess with you." But Emily wasn't convinced. "You gave her the power to do this," she snapped. "You let her back into your life." That night, Sophie's words echoed in her head. Was Daniel still seeing her? Was he still lying? Emily wanted to believe he was telling the truth now, but Sophie's venom had planted doubt like poison in her veins. The next day, Sophie called Emily directly. Her voice was sweet, mocking. "I thought you should know, Emily. Daniel came to me because you couldn't give him what he needed. You may be carrying his baby, but I'm the one he wants in his bed." Emily's hand shook as she gripped the phone. "Stay away from us," she whispered fiercely. Sophie laughed, a sound that made Emily's skin crawl. "You can't make him love you. He already chose me once. He'll choose me again." The line went dead, leaving Emily trembling with rage and despair. For the first time, she realized Sophie wasn't just an ex. She was a predator. And Daniel was too weak to resist her claws. Emily had never felt so broken. Yet she had never felt more determined. Her baby kicked for the first time on a cold December morning. As she placed her hand on her stomach, tears streamed down her cheeks. For weeks she had felt like her world was crumbling. But in that tiny flutter, she found a reason to keep going. "This isn't about Daniel anymore," she whispered to her unborn child. "It's about us." She began focusing on preparing for motherhood. She decorated the nursery, choosing soft yellows and creams. She attended prenatal classes, where she met other expectant mothers who offered kindness and encouragement. Slowly, she began building a world where she and her baby could thrive, with or without Daniel. Rachel noticed the change. "You're stronger than you think, Em," she said proudly. "He doesn't deserve you. But your child does. That's who you're fighting for now." Daniel, however, seemed oblivious to Emily's shift. He still tried to win her back, promising he had cut ties with Sophie. But Emily no longer hung on his words. She watched his actions, and they spoke louder than any apology. When he missed their antenatal appointment, claiming a last-minute meeting, Emily didn't cry this time. She just smiled sadly and thought, "You've already lost me, Daniel. You just don't know it yet." Her heart was healing, but it wasn't for him. It was for the life growing inside her. By the time Emily reached her 7th month of pregnancy, the weight of decision pressed on her every day. She couldn't keep living in limbo, half trusting, half doubting. Daniel pleaded for another chance. "I made a mistake," he said again and again. "But I love you. I love our baby. Please, Emily, don't give up on us." But Sophie still lingered like a shadow. Rumors swirled, whispers from mutual friends who had seen Daniel with her in places he claimed not to be. Emily never confronted him about these rumors. She no longer needed proof. His betrayal had already spoken for itself. One night, Emily sat alone in the nursery. The crib stood ready, tiny clothes folded neatly on the shelves. She rocked slowly in the chair, her hand on her belly, and whispered, "What kind of life do I want for you?" The answer came like a bolt of lightning. She didn't want her child growing up watching a mother beg for scraps of love. She didn't want her child to believe betrayal was normal, or that broken promises could be patched with empty words. The choice was clear. Emily would raise her child without Daniel. It terrified her, but it also freed her. For the first time since she discovered the affair, she felt a flicker of peace. And as she drifted to sleep that night, Emily realized that losing Daniel might be the best thing that ever happened to her. The decision to leave Daniel wasn't made in anger. It was made in clarity. Emily packed slowly over the course of a week, carefully folding her clothes, boxing up baby items, and preparing for a future without him. Every time Daniel tried to persuade her otherwise, she listened quietly, but she no longer wavered. One evening, she sat him down at the kitchen table. His blue eyes searched hers desperately, but Emily's gaze was steady. "Daniel, I can't do this anymore," she said softly. "I can't raise a child in a home filled with lies and betrayal. You've broken something that can't be fixed." He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "I love you, Em. Don't throw us away." Her chest tightened, but she forced herself to stay strong. "You threw us away the moment you chose Sophie over me. I'll always let you be part of your child's life, but I can't be with you. Not like this." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the sound of Daniel's shallow breathing. He looked at her as though seeing her for the first time. Not the soft, forgiving woman he could manipulate, but a mother determined to protect her child. When Emily walked out of that house, her suitcase in one hand and her other hand resting protectively over her belly, she felt something extraordinary: freedom. For the first time in months she could breathe. Rachel welcomed Emily into her apartment with open arms. The space was small but warm, filled with plants, books, and the comforting scent of fresh coffee. "This is your home for as long as you need it," Rachel promised. Emily settled in quickly, her days filled with preparing for the baby's arrival. She attended her final classes, practiced breathing exercises, and wrote down names in a little journal. Every time her baby kicked, it reminded her she wasn't alone. She had someone worth fighting for. At the prenatal clinic, Emily met Dr. Mark Evans, a gentle-voiced physician with a calm presence. He guided her through each stage of pregnancy with patience and kindness. Unlike Daniel, who had missed so many appointments, Mark was present in every moment, reassuring her fears. One afternoon after a routine checkup, Mark lingered a moment longer. "You're doing incredibly well, Emily. I know it hasn't been easy, but you're stronger than you think." His words warmed her, though she pushed away the spark she felt. She wasn't ready for anything beyond survival. But his kindness planted a seed, a reminder that not every man would betray her. For now, Emily's only focus was her baby. But the world outside her pain was slowly beginning to open again. Just when Emily thought she had escaped the storm, Sophie struck again. One evening, as Emily left the clinic, Sophie appeared by the car park. She looked flawless as always, blonde hair cascading over her shoulders, a cruel smile tugging at her lips. "Leaving Daniel was the smartest thing you've ever done," Sophie sneered. "Now he's mine again, the way it was always meant to be." Emily straightened, her heart pounding, but her voice was calm. "You can have him, Sophie. I don't want him anymore." Sophie's smirk faltered, but she recovered quickly. "He doesn't love you, Emily. He never did. You were just the one foolish enough to get pregnant." Emily's hand instinctively went to her belly. "Say what you want. But this baby is mine, not yours. And no matter what Daniel does, he'll never take that away from me." Sophie stepped closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. "You'll always be second best. Remember that." But Emily didn't flinch this time. She simply turned and walked away, her head held high. Inside, her heart was racing, but she knew something Sophie never would. Emily wasn't competing anymore. She had already won. Not with Daniel's love, but with her own strength. The contractions began in the early hours of a rainy spring morning. Emily woke with a sharp pain in her abdomen, followed by another minutes later. Panic surged, but Rachel was instantly at her side. "Breathe, Em. We're going to the hospital," Rachel said firmly. Hours later, Emily found herself in a sterile white room, gripping Rachel's hand so tightly her knuckles turned white. Sweat drenched her forehead, her cries filling the room, but through the agony, she kept whispering to herself, "For you, my baby. For you." After what felt like an eternity, the cry of a newborn pierced the air. Emily collapsed back against the pillows, tears streaming down her face as the nurse placed a tiny wriggling bundle in her arms. Her baby. A perfect little boy with dark hair and delicate features. Emily's heart swelled with indescribable love. She kissed his forehead and whispered, "You're my miracle. You're my everything." Daniel arrived hours later, his eyes wide with awe as he looked at his son. For a brief moment, Emily saw the man she had once loved, vulnerable, amazed. But the memory of his betrayal was still fresh, and though she let him hold the baby, her heart remained guarded. This was her child, her new beginning, and she wasn't going to let anyone ruin it. Motherhood was exhausting, but it filled Emily's days with joy she had never known. The sleepless nights, the endless feedings, the constant worry, none of it compared to the warmth of holding her son, of hearing his soft coos and seeing his tiny smile. Daniel visited occasionally, trying to prove his worth as a father. But Emily never let her guard down. He was part of her child's life, yes, but he no longer had power over hers. Sophie, bitter that Daniel didn't fully commit to her, eventually drifted away. Her messages stopped, her venom silenced. She had lost the war she thought she had won. Emily, meanwhile, grew stronger with each passing day. She returned to teaching, balancing work and motherhood with fierce determination. Rachel remained her rock, and Mark Evans quietly became more than just a doctor. He would check in on her, bring small gifts for the baby, and make her laugh in ways she hadn't thought possible again. One evening, as Emily rocked her son to sleep, she whispered, "We made it, little one. We survived." And in that moment, she realized the truth. Daniel's betrayal had nearly destroyed her, but it had also forced her to discover her own strength. She wasn't the broken woman who once begged for his love. She was a mother, a fighter, a survivor. And though the future was uncertain, one thing was clear. She would never let anyone dim her light again.